You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Will Retherford, Michelle Garmon, IU, Notre Dame, go.
Notre Dame. I think they're listed as a 7-point favorite. I think that's generous to IU. I think they should be closer to 14, if not 17. I just think that.
Okay, here's the thing. We're going to go position by position. My nephew and I did this. He's a Notre Dame fan. Notre Dame and IU fan. He normally in quarterback. When it comes to running the ball, Leonard is better. When it comes to throwing the ball, Rourke is better. I trust Rourke better at making decisions than I trust Leonard.
Okay. I will give you that. I will say is
running backs. Now I would have no. Yes, unless
Notre Dame.
Unless Love. Because did you see him at practice the other day? I saw the video. The man cannot lift his right leg. And it is in a big-time brace, and he is not very mobile. If they cannot have that 1-2 punch with Indiana having the number 1 ranked defense against the run, it hurts. Otherwise, it's Notre Dame. But that's only if both backs are healthy. If they're not healthy, because IU's got a running back tandem that is pretty good. Wide receivers. Indiana, by far. They have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country.
Now, the offenses are a little different, though, too.
I'm
IU's
sorry.
Receivers
Notre
numbers.
Dame does not have Waffle House. Sorry. I mean, Surratt is just, he's just fun. Cooper, the wide receivers, Indiana. Offensive line, I'll give... I say it's pretty easy.
Any answer. Here's what I'm going to tell you. IU is not going to have the number of linemen drafted that Notre Dame will, and that's what I value.
But that doesn't matter. See, that's
it does matter.
No, it does not
it
matter.
Absolutely matters.
No, it doesn't. Whether you can play in the NFL is not. It's for offensive linemen. Will, you were a quarterback. You weren't a lineman. My nephew was a lineman. He'll tell you. You know what he'll tell you? The number one thing to a lineman is. I've talked to Mike Toll and everything else. It's not always the talent. It's how well do they work as a unit? You have to trust. You have to know the guy beside you. How well do you work as a unit? Because some of the best, let's face it, some of the best linemen that have been drafted, what have their college football teams done? Hello? They haven't even made it they might be 500. It's how well a line works together. All right. Now, I will say this. I use linebackers with Walker and Fisher are better. Notre Dame's secondary is the best, probably the best in the country. And it would be the best in the country, definitely, if the one wasn't hurt. So secondary is by far Notre Dame. When it comes to coaching, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think he's up to 6 or 7 now, Coach of the Year awards. I like Cignetti. My nephew thinks Cignetti will outcoach Marcus Freeman. I like Freeman, don't get me wrong. I like Cignetti and his staff, and what I like about him is because they've been together so long and everything. And here's the thing. What I like is I like the way Cignetti does, and he's right. I mean, you can sit there and say at Ohio State, but Ohio State did not whip him. Before you say
Ohio State.
No, listen, no, listen. If they don't, if the Buckeyes get called like they should have for encroachment, I use up 7. They're still driving the ball. 2, a muff snap on a punt to the guy. A punt return where Ohio State got away with 3 blocking the backs or 2 blocking the backs and a hold. And
now we're blaming the officials.
No. And they were obvious. They were obvious. And the last touchdown they scored,
so for the guys
classless because they line up in the victory formation, and everybody knows when you line up in the victory formation, what do you not do?
I've never seen somebody line up in the victory formation at the 1-yard line. It looked like a tush push to me is what it looked like.
No, but they lined up in the victory position.
So that doesn't count? That touchdown?
No, it counts, but it doesn't. I get why people said it didn't like it, because I think if you're lining up in the victory,
sounds like baby stuff to me.
No,
they score.
I don't care, but no, because what do you do when you line up in the victory position as a defense? What do you not do?
I wasn't used to being in the victory. I've never taken a knee.
What you don't do
life,
is you don't go hard off the ball, because you don't want to get a stupid penalty. Could be ejected for the next game. That game was over. That's why I don't.
Okay, but what does that have to do with them beating them
but
and
what
getting to the 1 yard line?
What I'm
Whether
saying,
they scored or not.
but what I'm saying is that
dominated the game.
no, they did not. They only had 316 yards of offense. That is.
There was never a point in that game where I thought IU was going to win that game.
No, there was 0
I
points.
did. I'll tell you what. I think if that penalty doesn't happen, I think IU could possibly drive down there and they go up 2 scores on Ohio State. And what do you think happens? No, sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm just saying. And it was IU's first time on the road in that environment. They learned from it. And I will say this: Notre Dame is neat. I have been there to a football game, but it's a lot smaller than the Horseshoe. And I'm going to tell you, there will be at least, because they've been buying tickets, there will probably be at least 10,000 fans there wearing red and waving their red
I think
towels
IU
out
can
Friday
win,
night.
but this stuff is Homer stuff right here, Michelle.
I mean, you're
it's
talking
not.
about
they just got completely
from the
dominated
end of
from
the
They did not.
from the
No,
beginning
they-
of the game
no,
to the
they
end.
didn't.
They never once were in that game.
into the second quarter.
They did not get dominated. Dominated would have been Ohio State having
They were
400
never,
yards.
They
of
never had a
offense.
chance in that game. That's called being dominated.
Bull. They had a 7-0 lead, Greg. I'm sorry.
How many?
They
Now, how
scored
many
first.
games? I mean, the
They were at
Carolina
7-0,
Panthers
so
have
they had
scored.
a-
No.
All right, but that
There was never a
mud
point in that
punt-
game where they looked like the better team.
That punt
Never
allowed them
once
to
did
tie
they
it.
look like the better team. Never, not at one point during that
didn't
game.
that. They don't have to look like the better team. They weren't dominated. I'm tired of everybody saying they were dominated. They weren't dominated.
They had 28 total yards in 4 possessions from the end of the second quarter until they scored the touchdown in the fourth quarter to make it from 31-7 to 31-15. I mean,
All right. Also, Rourke was not completely healthy. He is. Here's the thing. No, you can sit there and say, but he really wasn't.
That's
He
a good
wasn't. That
excuse
thumb,
if there's
because
one.
I mean, it's
This
not
other
one
stuff,
excuse,
though,
but
is not.
he was not.
He-
He is going to be. His thumb is 100% now. It wasn't when he came back. He'll tell you it was probably closer to 75 or
looked pretty
80%.
rattled in that game to me mentally. I don't think it physically had anything to do. I think he was just rattled.
Well, but
I
I
just
mean,
don't think he was prepared to. It's real hard. I mean, it's real hard to go from playing at the University of Ohio University to go and playing at the Horseshoe. It gets real quick.
Yeah,
in
but you know what?
Columbus.
He's good, and I will take him over Ohio State's quarterback every single day
Oh,
of every year, of
You
every
can.
month, of every
It-
week, and all that.
It just makes no difference. And you know what? To say out coach, there's a reason Cignetti's not at Alabama. There's a reason Cignetti's not in the SEC. There's a reason that IU took a chance.
No, you know what? Do you know what?
There's a reason.
Bull.
He cherry picks every place he goes that has a good opportunity. Cignetti does nothing
Wow.
but
You
play
don't-
for
Now that's-
Cignetti.
Oh, boy, you know what?
you think that's Homer stuff? That's hater stuff.
That is
man.
He
hater
does.
stuff. No, he
James
doesn't.
Madison,
He builds it.
excellent
It was an
opportunity.
incredible-
Excellent
They weren't-
opportunity.
he built
IU,
them. He
excellent
built them.
opportunity. Excellent
Well,
opportunity.
you're wrong. He built them. He built them.
I think-
He built
yeah.
winning
I have to
programs,
agree
and
with
that is
Michelle
not
on
that
this
is
one.
undisputable.
And there's a reason that he's at IU. There's
yes,
a reason.
because
He's
he
on his
believes
way
they
up?
no, because he believes they can become a football
won't be
power, and
allowed
that's
to
what he
play.
wanted to do.
God.
And you know what, Will? Do you know what?
What?
Don't be surprised. I mean, one of the reasons IU signed an extension, there are SEC teams that would like to have.
You know what? The
him.
SEC would love it. They would love. You think Kirby Smart would love for Kurt Cignetti? Because you know what it would be? It would be 1 week he didn't have to worry.
Oh, you're
Because
so
he's
moron.
not ready to play
You know
in the
what?
big
I'm telling you what.
leagues.
That's one heck of hater thing. Because I'll tell you what, Cignetti is pretty damn good. I'd like
no,
to see.
he's
I would
very,
like to
very
see
good.
you go match his record.
I couldn't. I'm
couldn't.
not, I'm also,
And there's not. And you know what? You know what? He knows what he's doing. He brought in his staff. I mean, IU
He's
Scott
done an
Dawson. They
amazing
put.
job, Will.
You know, I'll tell you what. I don't even hate on Purdue that much because I will sit there and admit Matt Painter's a hell of a coach.
It's fun. I mean,
No, I get that
I'm
you might
glad.
want to see it for a couple of years.
I'm
I
glad.
understand
I'm glad that IU has become relevant enough to have this argument. It is good.
Good
It
point.
is good for the state of Indiana, and I will credit Kurt Cignetti for doing so.
And when Kurt
okay?
Cignetti wins the Big Ten at some point in the next 2 or 3 years, because I'm telling you, as this landscape changes and you get fewer scholarship players, and he's making the right system. See, here's the thing: the SEC, they are not as good as they once were, and they're not ever going to be again. Because guess what? They can't, because of the portal and NIL. Used to, they could go sign 4 or 5 stars at every position, and they couldn't leave without having to sit a year.
As much as I hate all of this, that has made college football much more competitive.
Yes, so they got to stockpile talent.
Yes.
Now that they can no longer do, and they paid for it.
Anymore.
They paid for it. Trust me, I know
they did.
people in the SEC,
Of course.
just like in Kentucky. They'll tell you, you know what? When Kentucky basketball those recruits would go down there and they'd get a quarter
Everybody
horse.
knows this. This is not a surprise to
So
everybody.
now that it's legal and everybody can pay players, it's leveled the playing field.
I think
and
still
the
hate it.
SEC cannot stand that.
It's not leveled the playing field from the standpoint. The problem is that the SEC
Did the SEC win the national championship last year?
Oh, well, they did the years before. So I mean, last year, sure,
Right, and I said that was the start of them starting to falter.
I don't know.
Washington, Michigan in the final, and Alabama got lucky because Florida State got hosed
Guys,
to get in there.
All right, so what's the final score going to be, Will?
I just like to say one thing about the SEC. Okay, the part of the reason that your top level SEC programs are not going to be as dominant is because the rest of the SEC by the NIL is going to get to catch up. Vanderbilt, massive endowment. South Carolina, massive endowment.
I think it's more what Michelle has
massive
said.
endowment. These are programs that will go and spend.
Really good players are not trapped as backups at Alabama
And they were,
now.
and they used to,
were
and they
before.
went because they believed the Kool-Aid. You could sit there and you could promise them, and they were trapped.
You're right.
Now, here's the other
But
thing.
what's
going to
make IU different? If they're able to go get all of those players, every other team can go get them.
Because
Everybody
you know what?
else is
Here's
going
what
to be.
I here's
to
what
do
I
it better than
but here's what
everybody,
I
and they
like.
have so far.
But here's what I like about Signetti. He didn't care about the stars. He wants the players that are going to fit his system. Like I said, the line, be cohesive and believe in it. And Urban Meyer.
Once you get past the 5 stars, there's a bunch of kids that are all about even, and it's who you can do with what.
Urban Meyer talks about that system and how well they execute it. I'm telling you, Nick Saban thinks Signetti's a good coach. He coached under him. He knows.
All you had to do was watch about 5 games this year and know that he is a great
Yes,
coach.
and I love it because he has that businessman's approach. And what I'm going to say is,
I agree with Will. We need to see more of it. You can't crown him after 1 year.
They need to play an actual schedule.
And by the way, next year's
they need to play an actual schedule.
Well, but here's the thing: what you have to understand, Will,
this is cupcake schedule. I know coming into the year we didn't say that, but
here's the thing:
this is a cupcake schedule.
But you know what? You deserved it because for 5 out the last 5 years. They've had, at least 3 of those years, they've had the toughest schedule in the Big Ten. And they had to play in the East. I mean, I'm sorry.
You're right.
Purdue and all those people. Purdue this year.
Very fair to them.
Purdue this year. Our schedule and everything, and IU's got a soft schedule.
Yeah,
Purdue,
you're
you got
right
a part of
about
be a part of that Big Ten West, and you had a soft schedule for years. Don't sit there.
They got stuck over there with all the great programs.
They
in
got,
the Big Ten.
and here's the thing: the schedule will get tougher,
and
you don't know because the Big Ten. It's like this. And that's why the SEC in their argument, well, the schedule and who they play. Well, you don't. The conference is all scheduled. And you know what, SEC? If you really don't like it, then play a 9-game conference schedule and don't play cupcakes in the month of November. Mercer, Georgia Southern, or somebody
FIU,
like that.
Western Illinois, Charlotte.
That's early in the year. The SEC for years, Will, if you go back, look who Alabama has played in November. They have played like a Western Illinois every November.
The SEC teams deserve to play a light schedule because they're going to play a killer SEC schedule.
But they don't. Not in November. Not in November.
Yes, they do.
No,
There's
they don't.
no reason you
nobody.
don't want to put an easy game in the middle of
Rivalry
November.
week is the SEC
Play
lives
9
for
games.
rivalry
They should
week.
every conference, especially if you want these big conferences. SEC wants it. Then you should play at least a 9-game
So
conference
the Big Ten
schedule.
doesn't?
Yes, they do. Big Ten has played 9-game schedule. They have for the last 2-3 years.
No, the
SEC's
Big Ten
played
hasn't
8.
been as good as the SEC until now. So
It's not as good as the SEC.
it is as good as
No,
the
it's
SEC.
Yes, it
absolutely
is.
not.
Three of the top 5 teams in the
After
country.
Ohio State, the
Georgia
Big
is
Ten
overrated
sucks.
this year. Who has Georgia
Georgia's
beat?
no good.
Who did Georgia lose to? See, here's the thing.
And they should've lost to Georgia Tech.
Everybody
They
wants.
were completely
Everybody
lucky to
wants
win
to
that game.
dish on IU. But what did IU not
I'd
have?
take IU against Georgia
But what did
right
IU
now.
not have all year? A bad loss. Not only that,
I'd take IU against
all of
Georgia
those
right now.
teams that were bad that they should have spanked,
Yep.
they did. Georgia
It
didn't.
has changed.
Alabama didn't.
Well, it has changed.
Notre
It's
Dame
not
lost to
gonna be
Northern
just the
Illinois.
SEC.
They did not do it.
And the transfer thing is the reason.
Illinois goes to Vanderbilt and loses. Iowa goes to Vanderbilt and loses. Michigan goes to Vanderbilt and loses.
I don't know that at all.
No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't.
Kentucky
not
was
Michigan.
competitive with
not
Mississippi.
Michigan. Here's the thing: what you guys are. Michigan went and beat
horrible.
Ohio State. Come on, and you told me Ohio State was going to kill them.
Well,
and I said it probably. I didn't think they would necessarily kill them. I said they should. My
Our
thing
time
is
up here. Final score, Will.
35-14.
I do not, when I have a vested interest, and I'm going to tell you, Will can hate all he wants, but he's not lived it. He's not been, well, I was at IU in the early 80s. Cleek Corso was the coach when I first went to IU. We've had some great teams, and you know what? I do remember.
You haven't had any great teams. You've had some good teams.
I meant we've had some great players off and on.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
We've had some good teams.
We've had some good teams. We've had some great players here and there. And that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I do remember in 1991 when IU went to Notre Dame. I think it only lost by 2 or 3 points.
Ball State went to Notre Dame 5 years ago and lost by 7. So,
but
it's not
that's
possible.
that's when Trent Green and IU was pretty
good.
Pretty good. Yeah. And I'm telling you, IU hasn't. And the one thing I like about Cignetti is how he approaches everything to a business trip. And he said they learned from Ohio State. Why can IU not learn from? Why can Notre Dame learn from Northern Illinois, who was a middling MAC team, but Indiana can't learn from a situation where they go in and lose to the number 2 team
just
in the country
it's later in the year.
Yeah, I mean that to me,
I agree 100%. Sorry for the abrupt finish, but things kind of spiraled out of control there with the debate about how good the MAC was, and I stopped it there. Thank you so much to Michelle and Will for doing that. Very entertaining. And thank you for listening. Please go like, subscribe, and follow. I can't believe I have to keep reminding everybody every day to do that. We're getting many more listeners than we have, but we're lacking in the follows, the subscriptions, and the likes. So please go do that when you get a chance. And again, I know you're thinking of someone. If you listen to this whole podcast and you're at this point in the podcast, you know somebody who you think would like the Central Indiana Sports Report. If you think someone would like this segment, please send it to them. Just copy and paste the episode at SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube. We would be forever in your debt. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. I love Susie.